The blue waters of Nerea sparkled under three golden suns, just as they had for millions of years. The peaceful planet floated quietly in space, its surface covered mostly by vast oceans and small green islands. In the crystal cities beneath, the waves, the Nereans lived their simple lives. They had never known war. They had never held weapons. They were gentle beings who spent their days learning, creating art, and raising their young. Ambassador HFY swam through the coral hallways of the great council chamber. His webbed hands shook as he carried the terrible news. The old Nerean's blue skin had turned pale with fear. His large, dark eyes reflected the horror of what was coming. "The ships," he whispered to the other council members. "So many ships. They fill the sky like a black cloud." The Krillian Empire had found them. The war fleet was only days away from their world. The Nereans had heard stories of the Krillians from other species. They were conquerors. They took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. Entire civilizations had fallen before their weapons, the council chamber filled with the sound of frightened voices. Young Nereans cried out for their parents. Elders spoke in hushed tones about the old legends. But there were no legends about surviving the Krillians. No one ever survived. "We must send the message," HFY said, his voice breaking. "To every world, every species, someone must help us." The quantum communication array was the most advanced technology the Nereans had ever built. It could reach across the galaxy, in seconds sending messages to any species that would listen. They had used it before to share their art, their music, their stories of peace. Now they would use it to beg for their lives. HFY moved to the great crystal console. His fingers moved across the controls, opening channels to every known civilization. The message would go to the proud Altarian Republic with their golden ships. It would reach the ancient Vorthan collective who had existed for thousands of years. The mighty Zarian Federation would hear it. Every species in the galaxy would know that Nerea was dying. "This is Ambassador HFY of the Nerean people," he began, his voice carrying across the stars. "We are under attack. The Krillian Empire comes to destroy us. We have no weapons, no armies, no way to fight. We are a peaceful people who have never harmed anyone. Please, if anyone can hear this, help us. Our children are afraid. Our cities will burn. We are dying. Please, someone help us." The message went out again and again. Every few minutes, HFY would repeat the words, each time with more desperation. The responses came quickly. The Altarian Republic was the first to answer. Their message was cold and formal. "The Altarian Republic acknowledges your transmission. However, intervention in interspecies conflicts requires proper diplomatic channels and council approval. We suggest you contact the Galactic Mediation Board." The Vorthan Collective sent their regrets. "The ancient wisdom teaches us that all life is sacred, but we cannot interfere in the natural order of the universe. We will remember your people. In our prayers." The Zarian Federation was even more direct. "This sector is outside our area of responsibility. We cannot deploy our forces for non-allied species." One by one, the responses came in. Each one was the same. "Sorry, but no regrets, but we cannot help. Not our problem." "Not our responsibility." The Nereans watched their communication screens in growing horror. The galaxy was full of powerful civilizations, ships that could travel between stars, weapons that could destroy planets, technology beyond their dreams. But no one would help them. "They all say no," a young counselor said, tears streaming down her face. "Everyone says no." Meanwhile, on a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy, Communications Officer Lisa Kane sat at her desk in the Deep Space Monitoring Station. The facility was built into the mountains of Colorado, far from any city. Its massive radio dishes pointed toward the stars, listening for any sign of life beyond Earth. Lisa had been working the night shift for 3 years. Most nights were quiet. Sometimes she would pick up strange signals from distant stars, but they were usually just natural phenomena, radio waves from pulsars, electromagnetic storms. Nothing that proved intelligent life existed out there, but tonight was different. Her equipment started picking up something unusual. A signal that was clearly artificial. It was coming from a star system about 50 light-years away. The computer was trying to decode it, but the language was unlike anything in Earth's databases. Commander. Hayes, Lisa called to her supervisor. You need to see this. Commander Ryan Hayes walked over to her station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been running the monitoring station for 10 years, and he had never seen anything like this. What is it? He asked. It's a transmission from space, Lisa said. But not from any human ship. The computer says it's using some kind of quantum communication system, something way beyond our technology. Hayes looked at the data streaming across Lisa's screens. Mathematical patterns that made no sense. Audio waves that sounded almost like voices. Could be interference from a satellite, he said, or maybe some kind of experiment. But then the translation program activated. Earth's computers had been working on universal language patterns for decades. They had studied every human language, looking for common elements that might exist in any communication system. The program was experimental, but it was the best. Slowly, words began to appear on the screen. Broken phrases at first, then sentences. Then something that made both Lisa and Hayes go pale. We are dying. Our world burns. Please, someone help us. Hayes stared at the screen. That can't be right. Run the translation again. Lisa's fingers flew across her keyboard. The signal was getting stronger. The translation was getting clearer, and the message was becoming impossible to ignore. This is Ambassador HFY of the Narayan people. We are under attack. The Krillian Empire comes to destroy us. We have no weapons, no armies, no way to fight. We are a peaceful people who have never harmed anyone. Please, if anyone can hear this, help us. Our children are afraid. Our cities will burn. We are dying. Please, someone help us. Lisa and Hayes looked at each other. Somewhere in the darkness of space, an alien species was crying out for help. Their planet was under attack. Their people were dying. And they were sending their desperate message to anyone who would listen. Get me Admiral Cole, Hayes said quietly. She needs to know about this. The message from Nerea continued to broadcast. Across the galaxy, the Nereans kept sending their plea even as the Krillian warships grew closer. They had been rejected by every major civilization. Every powerful species had turned away, but on Earth, humanity was listening. And for the first time in their history, the Nereans were about to learn what it meant to be heard. Admiral Patricia Cole stood in the emergency briefing room at Space Command headquarters. The walls were covered with star charts and tactical displays. Red lights blinked across the screens, showing the location of the alien distress signal. She had been pulled from her sleep 3 hours ago, and now she faced the most important decision of her career. Play the message again, she said to the technician. The voice of Ambassador HFY filled the room. Even through the electronic translation, his desperation was clear. We are dying. Our world burns. Please, someone help us. President Jonathan Blake sat at the head of the table. His face was pale and serious. Around him sat the members of the Earth Defense Council. General Marcus Webb, the head of military operations, drummed his fingers on the table. Secretary of State Amanda Foster flipped through files of diplomatic protocols. Dr. Elena Rodriguez from the Xenobiology Institute took notes on everything. So this is real, President Blake said. We're actually receiving a distress call from aliens. The signal is definitely artificial, Admiral Cole confirmed. Our best computers have analyzed it. This isn't some natural phenomenon or mistake. There's an intelligent species out there, and they're asking for help. General Webb leaned forward. Asking for help with what? A war? We don't even know who they're fighting or why. Communications specialist Jake Morrison looked up from his equipment. He had been working for 6 hours straight, trying to establish a direct communication link with the alien signal. His eyes were red from staring at screens, but he was excited. I think I can get us a direct line to them. The quantum communication system they're using is incredible. It's like nothing we've ever seen. Do it, President Blake said. Jake's fingers moved across his keyboard. The room filled with electronic noise as Earth's communication systems reached across 50 light-years of space. Static crackled from the speakers. Then suddenly a voice. "Hello?" The voice was strange, with sounds no human throat could make. But the translation program was working. "Is someone there? Please, can you hear us?" Admiral Cole stepped forward. "This is Admiral Patricia Cole of the Earth Defense Force. We received your distress signal. Can you tell us what's happening?" There was a pause. Then the voice came back, filled with wonder. "Earth? You are from Earth? We have never heard of your world. We're from a solar system about 50 light-years from your position," Cole said. "We picked up your transmission asking for help. You came to help us?" The voice was Ambassador HFY, though the humans didn't know his name yet. "But you are not part of the Galactic Council. You are not allied with any of the great powers." "We don't know anything about a Galactic Council," Cole said. "We just heard someone asking for help." The alien's voice became emotional. "My name is HFY. I am the ambassador of the Nerayan people. Our world is being attacked by the Krillian Empire. They are a warrior race that destroys everything in their path. We sent messages to every civilized world in the galaxy. They all said no. They all turned away." Dr. Rodriguez leaned closer to the microphone. "What kind of people are you? Are you warriors too?" "No," HFY said sadly. "We are peaceful. We have never fought a war. We don't even have weapons. We spend our time learning, creating art, raising our children. We live in cities under the ocean. We have never hurt anyone." The room fell silent. President Blake looked around the table at his advisors. "How long before this Krillian Empire reaches your world?" 2 days, HFY said. "Maybe less. Their ships are already in our solar system. They are waiting for more forces to arrive. Then they will attack." General Webb shook his head. "Mr. President, I have to advise against any involvement. We don't know anything about interstellar warfare. Our ships aren't designed for this kind of mission. We could lose everything." "Secretary," Foster nodded, "the diplomatic implications are enormous. If we interfere in an alien war, we could make enemies of this Krillian Empire. They might come after Earth next. And we don't know if we can trust these Nerians," Webb added. "Maybe they're not as peaceful as they claim." Dr. Rodriguez stood up. "With respect, General, we're talking about genocide. An entire species is about to be wiped out, and we're worried about diplomatic implications." "We're worried about the survival of humanity," Webb shot back. "Our first responsibility is to our own people." President Blake held up his hand for silence. "HFY, are you still there?" "Yes, I am here. Tell me about your people. About your world." HFY's voice became soft. "We are not a large species. Perhaps 50 million of us live on Nerea. We have existed for thousands of years, but we have never expanded beyond our world. We are happy with our oceans, our cities, our simple lives. Our children learn to swim before they can walk. They play games with sea creatures. They create music that sounds like whale songs." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was breaking. "Yesterday, my granddaughter asked me why the sky was dark. I told her it was clouds, but it wasn't clouds. It was the shadow of the Krillian ships. She will never grow up to have children of her own." The room was completely quiet. Even General Webb had stopped drumming his fingers. "The Krillians take no prisoners," HFY continued. "They don't enslave species or make them work. They just destroy. They will burn our cities, poison our oceans, and kill every living thing on our world. Then they will move on to the next target." President Blake closed his eyes. "And no one else will help you. The Altarian Republic said it was not their responsibility. The Vorthan Collective said they would pray for us. The Zarian Federation said we were outside their territory. Every species in the galaxy has turned away." Jake Morrison looked up from his equipment. "Sir, I'm getting readings on the Krillian fleet. Our deep space sensors are picking up massive energy signatures. These aren't small ships. We're talking about a full invasion force." Admiral Cole studied the data. "At least 30 capital ships. Maybe more." And they're not using technology we recognize. This is way beyond anything we've ever seen, General Webb stood up. Mr. President, I'm sorry for these people, but we can't fight that kind of force. We have 6 ships capable of interstellar travel. 6, against 30 alien warships with unknown capabilities. But we're the only ones who answered, Dr. Rodriguez said. Doesn't that mean something? Secretary Foster frowned. It means we're the only ones foolish enough to consider it. President Blake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was rising over the Capitol. People were going to work, taking their children to school, living their normal lives. They had no idea that aliens existed, much less that humanity might be about to fight its first interstellar war. HFY, he said, turning back to the microphone. If we come to help you, what are our chances? The alien was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. The Krillians are experienced warriors. They have conquered many worlds, but they have never fought humans before. Perhaps that means something. Perhaps, President Blake said. He looked around the table at his advisors. I need to make a decision. An entire species is about to be wiped out. They've asked the galaxy for help, and everyone said no, everyone except us. He walked back to the table and sat down. I think about what kind of people we want to be, what kind of species we want to be when we finally make contact with the galaxy. Do we want to be like the others? Do we want to turn away when people are dying? General Webb's face was grim. Sir, if we go, we might not come back. And if we don't go, President Blake said, 50 million innocent people will die. And we'll have to live with that for the rest of our lives. The room fell silent again. Everyone knew the weight of the decision. This would change everything. Earth would no longer be alone in the universe. But it might also be the end of Earth as they knew it. President Blake looked at each person around the table. Then he turned to the microphone. HFY, are you there? Yes. I am here. We're coming to help you. The alien's voice was filled with disbelief. You are ... You are really coming? We're coming, President Blake said, because it's the right thing to do. In the background, they could hear other voices speaking in the alien language. Voices filled with hope for the first time in days. Thank you, HFY whispered. Thank you for hearing our cry. Admiral Cole was already reaching for her communicator. Get me Captain Turner of the Defiance. Tell him to prep for immediate departure. And contact Captains Santos and Park. We're going to war. The 3 ships of Earth's hastily assembled rescue fleet hung in space like metal giants. The used Defiance was the largest, a battlecruiser built for defense of Earth's solar system. Captain Alex Turner stood on its bridge watching the final preparations. His crew of 200 worked frantically to load supplies and ammunition. They had never been this far from home before. The UES Liberty floated nearby, its fighter bays open like the mouth of a whale. Captain Maria Santos watched her pilots running final checks on their spacecraft. These were Earth's best fighters, but they were designed for battles near Earth's moon. Not alien worlds 50 light-years away, the smallest ship was the UES Horizon. A support vessel commanded by Captain Kevin Park, it carried medical supplies, extra fuel, and repair equipment. Park knew his ship would be crucial if they survived the coming battle. All ships report ready, came the voice of Admiral Cole over the communication system. She was staying on Earth to coordinate with the government, but her heart was with the fleet. Captain Turner activated the fleet communication channel. This is Turner on the Defiance. We're about to make the longest journey in human history. We're going to fight an enemy we've never seen to save people we've never met. But we're going because it's right. The 3 ships engaged their faster-than-light drives. The experimental engines had only been tested on short trips within the solar system. Now they would be pushed to their limits for 3 weeks of continuous travel. The stars stretched into lines of light, and Earth disappeared behind them. Chief Engineer Nicole Kim crawled through the engine compartments of the Defiance. The faster-than-light drive was running hot, much hotter than it should be. The cooling systems were barely keeping up. She had warned Captain Turner that pushing the engines this hard was dangerous, but they had no choice. The Nerians didn't have time to wait. How long can we keep this up? Turner asked her during their daily engineering meeting. Nicole wiped sweat from her forehead. Maybe 2 weeks. After that, we might lose the drive completely. We need 3 weeks to reach Nerea. I know, Nicole said. I'm doing everything I can. In the fighter bay of the Liberty, pilot Danny Chun was training his squadron for combat. They had studied every piece of information about the Krillian ships that Earth sensors had detected. The enemy fighters were faster and more heavily armed than anything humans had ever built. Remember, Danny told his pilots, we don't know. Their tactics. They might fight like us, or they might do something completely different. Stay flexible, stay alive. The pilots nodded, but Danny could see the fear in their eyes. They were brave, but they were also young. Most of them had never been in real combat. Now they would be fighting for their lives against aliens in deep space. Dr. Paul Anderson worked in the science lab of the Horizon, studying everything they could learn about the Nereans. The quantum communication link allowed them to exchange information during the journey. He learned that the Nereans were amphibious, breathing both air and water. They had technology that could grow buildings from living coral. Their art was based on the movement of ocean currents. They're completely peaceful, Anderson reported to the other captains. They don't even have a word for enemy in their language. They call the Krillians the destroyers because they don't understand the concept of making war for conquest. Communications. Officer Sam Taylor maintained contact with Nerea throughout the journey. Every day the situation got worse. The Krillian fleet had arrived and was preparing for their assault. The Nereans were evacuating their cities, moving deeper into the oceans, but there was nowhere to hide. The children are asking when the humans will come, Ambassador Zephahai reported during one transmission. I tell them soon, but I don't know if soon will be fast enough. Sam passed these messages to the crew. The weight of responsibility was enormous. An entire species was counting on them. Supply Officer Rachel Green worked constantly to make their limited resources last. They had brought enough food and water for a month, but the journey was taking longer than expected. The faster-than-light drive was consuming more fuel than predicted. She calculated that they would arrive at Nerea with barely enough supplies for the battle. We'll make it work, she told Captain Turner. We have to. Marine Colonel Tony Mitchell trained his soldiers. In the cargo bay, the Nereans had described the layout of their cities, and Mitchell was preparing his troops for urban warfare underwater. It would be unlike anything they had ever experienced. We're going to be fighting in an environment we've never seen, Mitchell told his Marines. 3-dimensional combat in water. The enemy will have advantages we can't even imagine. But we have something they don't. What's that, sir? Asked one of the younger soldiers. We're fighting for something we believe in, Mitchell said. They're just following orders. Navigator Beth Clark plotted their course through unexplored space. The star charts showed the territories of various alien civilizations. The Altarian Republic controlled a large section of space near their route. The Vorthan Collective had claimed several star systems. The Zarian Federation's borders extended across dozens of worlds. We're flying through space controlled by species that have already refused to help, Clark reported. If any of them detect us, they might try to stop us. Let them try, Turner said grimly. As they traveled deeper into space, they began intercepting Krillian communications. The enemy was confident they had defeated dozens of species before. They saw the Nereans as just another weak civilization to be destroyed. They're not expecting any resistance, reported Intelligence Officer Brad Morgan. Their communications talk about cleansing the planet in a few days. They think it will be easy. But then the Krillian communications changed. Their scouts had detected the approaching human fleet. The messages became confused, then angry. Who were these humans? Why were they interfering? Good, Turner said when he heard the reports. Let them wonder. The journey was taking its toll on everyone. The crews worked double shifts to keep the ships running. The engines groaned under the strain. The life support systems struggled to keep up, but they continued forward, driven by the knowledge that people were counting on them. On the 10th, day, they received a transmission from the Altarian Republic. A golden ship appeared on their sensors, moving to intercept them. "Unknown vessels, you are entering Altarian space without authorization," came the message. "Identify yourselves and state your purpose." Captain Turner opened a channel. "This is Captain Turner of the Earth Defense Force. We are responding to a distress call from the planet Nerea." There was a pause. "Earth, we have no record of your species. You are not authorized to transit our space." "We're not asking for permission," Turner replied. "We're going to help people who are dying. The Nerean situation is being handled through proper diplomatic channels," the Altarian captain said. "Your interference is not welcome." "Then you should have helped them yourselves," Turner said, and cut the communication. The Altarian ship followed them for several hours, then turned back. They were not willing to fight to stop the humans, but they were not willing to help either. Similar encounters happened with ships from other species. The Vorthan Collective sent a vessel to observe them. The Zarian Federation transmitted warnings about unauthorized military action, but none of them tried to stop the human fleet by force. "They're curious about us," Turner observed. "They want to see what we'll do." "They're going to find out," Captain Santos replied from the Liberty on the 18th day. Chief Engineer Kim reported that the Defiance's engines were failing. The faster-than-light drive was running on emergency power. "The cooling systems were breaking down. We might not make it," she warned Turner. "We'll make it," Turner said. "We have to." The crew worked around the clock, cannibalizing parts from other systems to keep the engines running. They shut down non-essential equipment. They reduced life support to minimum levels. Everything was sacrificed to keep moving forward. On the 20th day, they received a desperate message from Nerea. The Krillian attack had begun. The first cities were burning. The Nereans were dying. "Hold on," Turner broadcast to the distant planet. "We're almost there." The 3 Earth ships pushed through space, their engines screaming with strain. Behind them, the galaxy watched and waited. Ahead of them, a peaceful species fought for survival, and in the darkness between the stars, humanity raced toward its first interstellar war. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Nerea system. What they saw made their hearts sink. The beautiful blue planet was surrounded by a ring of black ships. Smoke rose from the burning cities on the surface. The orbital defense platforms that the Nereans had built were nothing but floating wreckage. "Mother of God," whispered Captain Turner as he stared at the tactical display. The Krillian fleet was massive. 37 warships hung in space like predatory sharks. Each one was twice the size of the Defiance. Their dark hulls bristled with weapons that Earth's computers couldn't identify. "Sir, we're getting a transmission from the planet," Communications Officer Sam Taylor reported. His voice was tight with emotion. Ambassador Zephahiah's voice came through the speakers, weak and filled with pain. "The humans ... They actually came. I cannot believe it. You crossed the stars for us." "We told you we would," Captain Turner replied. "What's your situation down there?" "Bad, very bad. They started bombing 3 hours ago. The coastal cities are gone. Millions of our people are dead. We're trying to evacuate to the deep ocean, but their weapons can reach us even there." Admiral Cole's voice crackled through the communication system from Earth. "Turner, what are you facing up there?" Turner studied the enemy formation. The Krillian ships were arranged in perfect battle lines. They moved with military precision. These were experienced warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. 37 enemy vessels. They outgun us at least 10-1, maybe more. "Ken, you win?" Cole asked. Turner looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were ready. "We'll find out." The Krillian flagship detected the human ships and sent a transmission. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking through a translation. "Device. Unknown vessels, you are interfering in Krillian Imperial operations. Identify yourselves and withdraw immediately." Captain Turner opened a channel to the entire enemy fleet. "This is Captain Alex Turner of the United Earthship Defiance. We're here to protect the Nerean people. You will cease your attack and withdraw from this system." There was silence for a moment. Then harsh laughter came from the Krillian ships. Earth? We have never heard of this world. You have 3 small ships against the might of the Empire. Leave now or be destroyed. Counteroffer, Turner said. You leave now or we'll send you home in pieces. The laughter stopped. The Krillian commander was not used to defiance from inferior species. So be it, destroy the humans. The battle began instantly. The Krillian ships opened fire with energy weapons that lit up space like deadly fireworks. The human ships scattered, using their smaller size and better maneuverability to avoid the massive blasts. All fighters launch. Captain Santos ordered. From the Liberty, 24 human fighters poured out of the carrier's bays like angry hornets. They were outnumbered 5-1 by Krillian fighters, but they had something the enemy didn't expect. Danny Chun led his squadron straight into the heart of the enemy formation. The Krillians expected the humans to fight defensively to try to protect their larger ships. Instead, the human fighters went on the attack immediately. Break formation. Danny shouted over the radio. Hit them fast and get out. The human fighters scattered in all directions, firing missiles and energy bolts at targets of opportunity. The Krillian pilots tried to respond, but they were used to fighting enemies who followed predictable tactics. The humans fought like they were crazy. Lieutenant Commander Steve Morris dove his fighter between 2 massive Krillian destroyers, firing at their weapon systems. Enemy fire filled the space around him, but he twisted and turned his ship in ways that defied their targeting computers. They don't know how to fight us, Morris called out. They're confused. On the Defiance, Chief Engineer Nicole Kim worked frantically to keep the engines running. The faster-than-light drive had been damaged during the long journey, but regular engines were still working. She rerouted power from life support to weapon systems. Give me everything you've got. Captain Turner called down to engineering. You've got it. Nicole replied, her hands flying over the controls. The Defiance charged straight at the Krillian flagship. The enemy ship was 5 times larger, but Turner was betting on speed and surprise. Krillian weapons fired at them, but the human ship jinked and weaved between the energy blasts. Return fire. Turner ordered. The Defiance's main guns opened up, sending streams of energy into the enemy flagship's shields. The Krillian shields flared and sparked, but held. The human weapons were not powerful enough to punch through, but Turner wasn't trying to destroy the flagship. He was creating a distraction. Captain Santos brought the Liberty around behind the enemy formation. Her ship's job was to provide fighter support and medical aid, but she had a different idea. The Liberty launched every fighter it had, then turned toward the planet. Santos, what are you doing? Turner called over the radio. Getting our people to the surface, Santos replied. The Nereans need ground support. The Liberty dove toward Nerea's atmosphere, chased by 3 Krillian destroyers. Enemy fire lit up around the ship, but Santos pushed through. The Liberty was fast and well armored. It could take the punishment, launching drop pods? Santos announced. Marine Captain Lisa Wong felt her stomach drop as her pod was fired from the Liberty toward the planet below. Around her, 50 other Marines were making the same terrifying journey. They were going to land in the middle of a war zone on an alien world. The drop pods crashed into the shallow seas around one of the Nerean cities. Wong's pod burst open, and she found herself standing waist-deep in warm, blue water. Strange. Coral buildings rose around her like something from a dream. "Sound off," she called into her radio. "Who made it down?" Voices crackled back. 43 Marines had survived the landing. 7 pods had been destroyed during the descent. A group of Nereans swam toward them through the water. Wong had never seen aliens before, but she could tell they were terrified. Their large eyes were wide with fear, and their blue skin was pale with shock. "You're the humans," one of them said in broken English. "You came to help us." "That's right," Wong said. "Where do you need us?" The Nerean pointed toward the center of the city. "The destroyers are there. They have weapons that can kill us. Underwater, our people are trapped." Wong checked her equipment. Her armor was designed to work underwater, and her weapons were sealed against moisture. "Marines, we're going swimming." Back in space, the battle was not going well for the humans. The Defiance had taken heavy damage. Its shields were failing, and several weapon systems were offline. The Liberty was trapped in the planet's atmosphere, unable to return to space. The Horizon was trying to provide support, but it was not built for combat. "Sir, we're losing," reported the Defiance's tactical officer. "Their ships are too strong." Turner watched the tactical display. Half his fighters were gone. The remaining pilots were fighting bravely, but they were running out of ammunition and fuel. The Krillian ships seemed barely damaged, then something unexpected happened. The Nurians began to fight back. They had no warships, no weapons, no military training. But they had something else. They had technology that the Krillians had never seen before. From the depths of Nerea's oceans, massive structures began to rise. They looked like living coral, but they pulsed with energy. Biomechanical weapons that the peaceful Nereans had built in desperation during the last few days. "What are those?" Turner asked. Ambassador Zephai's voice came over the radio. "Emergency defenses. We built them from our coral technology. They're not very powerful, but maybe they can help." The coral structures fired beams of concentrated energy at the Krillian ships in orbit. The beams were not strong enough to destroy the enemy vessels, but they were a distraction. More importantly, they were a symbol. The galaxy was watching this battle. Every major civilization had ships nearby, observing from a safe distance. They had come to see if the humans could actually fight the mighty Krillian Empire. Now they saw something that shocked them. The peaceful Nereans, who had never fought a war in their entire history, were fighting alongside the humans. Two species that had never met before were working together against a common enemy. This changes everything, Turner realized. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships, all fighters, the Nereans are fighting with us. We're not alone anymore. Let's show these Krillian bullies what happens when they pick on innocent people." The human fighters regrouped and attacked with renewed fury. The Defiance charged forward again, its guns blazing. The Horizon, despite being a support ship, joined the attack on the planet's surface. Marine Captain Wong and her soldiers fought through the flooded streets of the Nerean city. They found Krillian ground troops using energy weapons to hunt down fleeing civilians. "Light them up," Wong ordered. The Marines opened fire with their assault rifles. The Krillian soldiers were surprised by the humans' sudden appearance. They had been told that this world had no defenders. The battle raged in 3 dimensions. In space, human fighters danced between massive warships. On the surface, Marines fought through alien cities. In the depths of the ocean, Nerean defenders activated their coral weapons. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Krillian Empire was facing something they had never encountered before. News of the battle at Nerea spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. In the golden halls of the Altarian Republic, emergency council sessions were called. The ancient Vorthan collective awakened their sleeping elders. Even the mighty Zarian Federation watched their displays with growing concern. "The humans are actually fighting," said High Admiral Kethver of the Altarian fleet. "These primitives from an unknown world are engaging the Krillian Empire in open warfare." "Impossible," replied Councillor Velthara. "No species has successfully resisted the Krillians for over 200 years. These humans will be destroyed within hours." But the hours passed and the humans kept fighting on Nerea. The alliance between humans and Nereans was growing stronger by the minute. Dr. Paul Anderson worked alongside Nerean scientists in an underwater laboratory, sharing technology that neither species had ever imagined. "Your coral technology is incredible," Anderson said to the Nerean scientist Mirthalin. "It's like living metal. How do you control it?" "We sing to it," Mirthalin explained, his webbed hands moving over the coral controls. "The coral responds to sound frequencies. Watch." The Nerean scientist created a complex musical pattern with his voice. The coral walls around them began to shift and change, growing new structures and weapon systems. Anderson's eyes went wide with amazement. "We could integrate this with our computers," Anderson said excitedly. "Create hybrid weapons that adapt in real time. Within hours, the first human-Narayan hybrid weapons were being deployed. Coral-enhanced missiles that could change course mid-flight. Energy shields that grew stronger under attack. Weapons that learned from each battle. The Krillians had never faced anything like it. War Master Thackeron stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching his tactical displays with growing anger. The small human fleet should have been destroyed by now. Instead, they were still fighting. Worse, they were adapting to Krillian tactics faster than his computers could calculate. "How many ships have we lost?" he demanded. His tactical officer's voice was nervous. 7 destroyers and 2 cruisers, War Master. The humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They are primitives. Thackeron roared. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Yes, War Master, but they use it in ways that defy logic. Their fighters break formation and attack individually. Their capital ships charge directly at our strongest positions. They sacrifice themselves to protect others. Thackeron studied the battle reports. The human fighter pilot designated as Chun had destroyed 6 Krillian fighters before his own ship was shot down. But instead of ejecting to save himself, he had rammed his damaged fighter into a Krillian destroyer's engine core. The explosion had crippled the enemy ship. "They fight like they are already dead," the tactical officer continued. "As if victory is more important than survival." On the planet's surface, Marine Captain Lisa Wong crouched behind a piece of fallen coral architecture. Her 43 Marines had grown to over 200 as Narayan civilians joined the fight. The peaceful ocean dwellers had never held weapons before, but they learned quickly when their children's lives were at stake. "Incoming Krillian dropship," called Sergeant Mike Torres. 3 o'clock. Wong raised her rifle and aimed at the descending enemy vessel. Beside her, a young Narayan named Silfara held a human assault rifle with shaking hands. "I've never killed anyone," Silfara whispered. "Neither had I until today," Wong replied. "But they're trying to kill your children." The Narayan's large eyes hardened with determination. "Then we stop them." The dropship landed in Krillian. Soldiers poured out. They were 7 feet tall with armor that looked like blackle scales. Their weapons fired beams of red energy that could melt through concrete. "Fire!" Wong shouted. The combined human Narayan force opened up with everything. They had human bullets and Narayan energy weapons lit up the battlefield. The Krillian soldiers were tough, but they weren't expecting organized resistance from a species they thought was defenseless. Combat. Medic Grace Phillips worked frantically to save both human and Narayan wounded. The Narayan anatomy was different, but their blood was red like human blood. Their pain was the same. Their courage was the same. "You're going to be okay," she told a wounded Narayan soldier. "Just stay with me." The alien looked up at her with gratitude. "Your people came so far to help us." "Why?" Grace thought about it as she worked. "Because somebody had to." In space, the battle was reaching a turning point. The Defiance was badly damaged. Half its weapons were offline and life support was failing. Captain Turner had burns on his arms from an electrical fire on the bridge. Engineer Nicole Kim's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain, I can give you one more full power charge, but after that we're dead in space." Turner looked at the tactical display. The Krillian flagship was damaged but still fighting. If he could take it out, the rest of their fleet might retreat. "Do it," Turner ordered. "All power to engines and forward weapons." The Defiance began its final charge. Enemy fire concentrated on the human ship, tearing through its armor and shields. Explosions rocked the bridge. Smoke filled the corridors. "Sir, we're not going to make it," his tactical officer shouted. Turner gripped his command chair as another explosion shook the ship. "We don't have to make it. We just have to get close enough." But then something amazing happened. Ships began appearing at the edge of the system. First 1, then 5, then 20. The sleek golden vessels of the Altarian Republic. The crystal ships of the Vorthan Collective. Even the massive gray dreadnoughts of the Zarian Federation. "This is High Admiral Kethver of the Altarian Republic," came a transmission. "We are here to provide humanitarian assistance to the Narayan people." Turner almost laughed. "Humanitarian assistance? Where were you 3 days ago?" "We were Reconsidering our position, the Altarian admiral replied carefully. The truth was simpler. The galaxy had been watching the battle, and they were amazed by what they saw. Two species that had never met before were fighting together against impossible odds. The humans had crossed 50 light-years to help strangers. The Nereans had abandoned their pacifist beliefs to fight alongside their rescuers. It was inspiring. It was embarrassing. It made every other species look selfish and cowardly by comparison. The Altarian Republic has decided to recognize the sovereignty of the Nerean people, Admiral Kethfer announced. We demand that the Krillian Empire cease hostilities immediately. The Vorthan Collective supports this demand, added another voice. As does the Zarian Federation? Came a third transmission. War Master Thackerone found himself facing not just 3 human ships, but the combined fleets of half the galaxy. Species that had been neutral for centuries were suddenly taking sides against him. This is unacceptable, he transmitted to the assembled fleets. The Krillian Empire does not recognize your authority in this matter. Then you'll have to go through all of us, Captain Turner replied from the Bridge of the Dying. Defiance. For the first time in his military career, War Master Thackerone felt uncertainty. His fleet was strong, but not strong enough to fight the entire galaxy. And these humans had already proven that strength wasn't everything. War Master, his tactical officer said quietly, perhaps we should consider a strategic withdrawal. Thackerone's pride burned like acid in his throat. The Krillian Empire had never retreated from an inferior species. But he was no longer facing just humans and Nereans. He was facing something new. He was facing a galaxy that had remembered what it meant to do the right thing. The final decision came when pilot Amy Foster, flying one of the last operational human fighters, managed to slip past the Krillian defenses and fire a missile directly into their flagship's main reactor. The explosion lit up space like a new star. War Master Thackerone watched his ship die around him. In the escape pod, as he fled toward his remaining vessels, he transmitted one final message. This is not over, humans. The Empire will remember this. Defeat. Captain Turner, barely conscious on the bridge of the crippled Defiance, managed to reply. Good. Remember that the next time you think about attacking innocent people. The Krillian fleet retreated, leaving behind their dead and their shame. For the first time in over 2 centuries, they had been defeated, and the galaxy would never be the same. The smoke cleared slowly over the blue waters of Nerea. Where once the Krillian war fleet had darkened the sky, now only empty space remained. The enemy ships had jumped to faster-than-light speed, carrying their defeated forces back to the Empire. For the first time in centuries, the Krillians had been forced to retreat. Captain Alex Turner lay in the medical bay of the UES Defiance, his body covered in burns and cuts from the final battle. The ship's doctor, Sarah Mitchell, worked to patch him up while the sounds of repair crews echoed through the damaged corridors. How bad is it? Turner asked, trying to sit up. The ship or you? Dr. Mitchell replied with a tired smile. The ship lost 70% of its systems. You lost about the same amount of your skin? Both of you will live, but it'll take time to heal. Through the small window, Turner could see the alien ships that had come to help. The golden vessels of the Altarian Republic floated alongside the crystal ships of the Vorthan Collective. The massive gray dreadnoughts of the Zarian Federation hung in space like protective giants. They came, Turner said quietly. They finally came. After you did all the hard work, Dr. Mitchell said. Funny how that works. On the planet's surface, Marine Captain Lisa Wong walked through the ruins of the Nerean city. The coral buildings were damaged but still beautiful, their organic shapes catching the light of the 3 suns. Nerean civilians worked alongside human soldiers to clear debris and search for survivors. A young Nerean child swam up to Wong, holding something in her small webbed hands. It was a piece of metal from a human fighter, twisted and burned from the battle. Is this from your skyship? The child asked in careful English. Yes, Wong said, kneeling down to the child's level. It's from one of our fighters. The pilot was very brave, the child said solemnly. He saved our school. Wong felt tears forming in her eyes. She thought of Danny Chun, who had died ramming his fighter into a Krillian destroyer to protect the fleeing civilians below. Yes, he was very brave. The child held out the piece of metal. We want to put this in our memory garden, so we never forget what your people did for us. Wong accepted the twisted metal, feeling its weight. We'll never forget either. Ambassador HFY stood in what remained of the Great Council chamber, addressing representatives from across the galaxy. The room was damaged from the Krillian bombing, but it had been quickly repaired using the remarkable Nerean coral technology. For 3 days we begged for help, HFY said, his voice carrying clearly through the water-filled chamber. We sent messages to every known civilization, every great power, every advanced species. They all said the same thing. Not our problem, not our responsibility, not our concern. The alien representatives shifted uncomfortably. High Admiral Kethver of the Altarian Republic looked embarrassed. Elder Morthic of the Vorthan Collective stared at the floor. Even the proud Zarian Federation delegates seemed ashamed. But then, HFY continued, a small world that none of us had ever heard of picked up our signal. Earth, a planet with no galactic allies, no trade agreements, no diplomatic relations. They had every reason to ignore us, but they didn't. The ambassador gestured to the humans sitting in the chamber. Captain Turner was there, still bandaged from his injuries. Admiral Cole had traveled from Earth to attend the meeting. Marine Captain Wong sat beside Dr. Anderson, who had formed a close friendship with the Nerean scientists. They came, HFY said simply. They crossed 50 light-years of space with 3 small ships to help people they had never met. They fought against impossible odds. They bled and died for us, and they asked for nothing in return. High Admiral. Kethver stood up. The Altarian Republic wishes to formally apologize for our initial response. We should have acted sooner. We all should have, added Elder Morthic. The Vorthan Collective has learned much from watching the humans. Their courage has reminded us of truths we had forgotten. General Vexstar of the Zarian Federation nodded. Grimly, the Federation proposes immediate membership in the Galactic Council for both Earth and Nerea. Their actions have earned them a place among the civilized worlds. But Admiral Cole stood up and shook her head. With respect, General, we don't want membership just because we fought well. We want to earn it by being the kind of people who deserve it. You already have, HFY said quietly. You showed us what it means to be truly civilized. Not by your technology or your power, but by your willingness to help others. The formal ceremonies took place over the next several days. Earth was granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with Senator Carl Roberts appointed as humanity's first representative. The Human-Nerean Alliance was officially recognized as a mutual defense pact, but the real changes were happening in the hearts and minds of the galaxy's people on the Altarian homeworld. Protests demanded that their government take more action to help struggling species. The Vorthan Collective began sending aid ships to worlds in need. Even the Zarian Federation quietly increased their humanitarian missions. The humans have started something, observed Chancellor Dekvan of the Altarian Republic during a private meeting. They've made us all look selfish. Good, replied his aide. Maybe it's time we stop being selfish. President Jonathan Blake addressed the people of Earth from the same briefing room where the decision to help Nerea had been made. Behind him stood the damaged battle flag of the UES Defiance, now a symbol of humanity's first interstellar victory. Today, we didn't just save a species, Blake said. We showed the galaxy what it means to be human. We proved that compassion is not weakness, that helping others is not foolishness, that doing the right thing is always worth the cost. The president paused, looking directly into the camera. The Nereans called for help, and we answered. But we weren't the only ones who heard their cry. The whole galaxy heard it. The difference is that we were the only ones who cared enough to act. Blake gestured to the star charts behind him, showing the vast expanse of space that humanity was. Now, from now on, when someone calls for help, they won't be alone, because humanity is listening, and we will always answer. In the depths of Nerea's oceans, children played in the coral gardens, their laughter echoing through the water. Above them, human and Nerean ships patrolled together, protecting the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. The galaxy watched and learned. Species that had been enemies for centuries began talking to each other. Trade routes opened between worlds that had never shared resources before. The Galactic Council passed new laws about helping species in distress. War Master Thackeron's prediction had been correct. The Krillian Empire would remember their defeat at Nerea, but so would everyone else. The story spread from world to world, told in 1,000 different languages. The tale of the humans who heard a cry for help and crossed the stars to answer. And in the quiet moments between the stars, when the galaxy slept and dreamed, the memory of that cry echoed still. Not the desperate plea of a dying species, but the response that came from Earth. "We're coming," humanity had said. "Because someone has to." The galaxy had learned that sometimes the smallest voice can carry the greatest courage. And sometimes the strangest species can teach the oldest civilizations what it truly means to be alive. In the end, the Nereans had begged the galaxy for help. Only humanity had heard their cry. But in saving them, humanity had saved something far more important. They had saved the galaxy's soul.